What made me want to go from being a drummer to composer? Well, I've always done more than one thing, actually. Always. When you're in a band, quite often, in a way that you can't really control, sometimes a song gets picked up and used, maybe in a film or an advert, and that gave me a bit of a tingle or a taste for that, for being involved with film, possibly. I've just had this growing taste for trying to be involved with film. A few years ago, a filmmaker called Jason Rothwell from Manchester made a film on a shoestring budget called Zeman Overload. He used several songs and pieces of instrumental music that I'd made in his film, and I saw it on a big screen, and that gave me the taste to do more.
I'd always been composing. I've been composed at school, and all of that, but it was really at college that I started learning about orchestras properly and how to write for orchestras. And then there were some bands at Stowe College, Bell and Sebastian were there, all that kind of stuff. And when I'd left the Royal Scottish Academy of Music, there was a studio called Savat. It's still there in a smaller form, just down the road in the West End. And I was there, and I got known as the guy to go to for string arrangements. So I started doing that, and then I kind of got a short film around the same time, and then started doing some more short films, and it kind of blossomed from there. So yeah, so the writing process just depends entirely on what the project is. A lot of the time you'll get sent a script. Some composers like getting scripts, other composers don't like getting scripts. They're coming to you as a composer because they like your stuff and they like your style and they trust your sensibilities. So they're looking for you to bring something to the film that's different. For me, what happened is they'll send what's called a rough cut, and you start getting your themes together. I'll watch it sort of 2 or 3 times. I tend to switch it off after that, and I just start writing, whether it's at a piano or go for a run or whatever. I just start thinking about the actual, the film, and kind of going back and forth on what instrumentation I want to do. And if it's Limitless, you've got that motif together. If it's a longer format, you've got various themes. You might need a love theme, you might need a dark adventure theme, you might need all these other things. And then I'll start watching the film and start just placing them in a few places just to see if it's the right vibe or not. You've really got to be living and breathing that film by the end of the first week. So you've seen it so many times then, but without actually scoring to picture, that you're really getting a vibe for it. So everyone's got their own ways of working, but for me, as I say, I just like to get my head down and get through the entire thing once.
How has being a drummer helped my scoring to picture? You understand rhythm in a different way. I wouldn't say a better way, but a different way. A lot of what you're doing when you're putting music to picture is you are responding to a rhythm or to beats in the dialogue and in the editing. And it's maybe not regular beats that you can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, but there's bits where it just a change feels right. I always sit at the piano. The piano's great, and the thing about recording with software is you can be a not great piano player and still achieve something. So I do love I love strings and piano.
So my favourite instruments that I write for evolve the entire time. Piano is where I would sit down and write most of my themes. So playing obviously like MIDI from the keyboard doesn't mean that it's going to be playing piano. It'll be playing a string sound or a brass sound or this. I mean, for me, I've just always adored strings. I love strings because there's so many things that you can do with it. You can have your favourites, but you should really kind of look for other stuff, because otherwise your stuff's always going to sound the same. So it's always good to kind of experiment and find sounds that other people don't use.
Anytime I watch a film, I'm listening to the music, and I'm always thinking about the decision to actually put music in that place in the first place, and then what the music's doing, what the music's telling us. And I try, I suppose, to do something that sounds true to me. I'm not trying to fake it, you know. So actually I like minimalism and rhythm and direct melodies and space. My ideas come out of that sort of approach.
For me, I like doing I'm classically trained, but I've produced bands and got so many kind of analog synths and stuff. I like creating what they call in LA a hybrid. I like having a mishmash of stuff. There are other films where you either don't have the budget for an orchestra or it's not suited for an orchestra. A lot of the time I don't use an orchestra traditionally. I can. I've done various soundtracks for 100-piece orchestras that sound big symphonic stuff, all great. But there's something incredibly freeing as a composer about being able to use an orchestra in ways that it's not done before. So I put it through distortion pedals, I put it through a weird reel-to-reel and mic to up. So lots of different ways. I couldn't have achieved that sound if I didn't have an orchestra there. So it's not saying you can't use musicians. I needed the musicians to create that sound, but it didn't really sound like an orchestra. You know what I mean? So I like using stuff. I guess I like using instruments in different ways. You feel very blessed as a composer when you do get to write different stuff. So I go from writing for orchestras to writing for total electronica to writing, adding a couple of instruments over the top. It's all just quite fun stuff, I think as far as the future of scoring goes, it's exciting times. The ability to write all of this different stuff and the different styles of music with people. Where I do think the future's exciting is the ability to try things out. As I say, take an orchestra, stick it through a plugin, see what it sounds like. Take a guitar, reverse it, see what it sounds like. Add on a few beats, make your own beats.
I think scores will always be relevant to film. I think the film experience will always require a soundtrack, and they might get more experimental, they might, go off in different directions, but they'll always be in service of making the film work. I don't think that's ever going to go away. So therefore, music is fundamental to film.